I'd like you to take a minute to imagine, if you will. Close your eyes. I'm going to describe to you a room and a place, and I just want you to think about the possibilities of where it is you may be. So I want you to think. Here you are, you're sitting in a room. There's crumbling brick on the wall. There's bland paint that's chipping off. From your vantage point, you can see hard, straight lines where you're sitting. There's dim lighting. You feel somewhat solitary, and even though you feel somewhat solitary or secluded on your own, there is constant supervision in this room. You don't have permission to leave. You need to ask for permission to do certain activities within that room. And I want you to think about, just for a minute, how that makes you feel. Is it a place you want to be? Where is it that you might be? And I want you to think about what kind of building this room is in. Now, by contrast, I want you to think about a completely different room in a completely different place. In this room, by contrast, there are bright lights, skylights even. There are colorful walls. People are working together in groups in this room. You have the ability to move freely about the room, to interact with others if you so choose. Some people are in groups, some people are working on their own. The choice is theirs. I want you to think about, just for a minute, the influence this room has on you, how it makes you feel. I also want you to think, where is it you may be? By way of introduction, my name is Jake Hubert. I'm here to talk to you today about what does education look like and what should it look like. So, how many of you thought with that first scenario that you were possibly in a jail cell? There are some people out there who would think so. The weird thing about it is many students across the United States, especially those in poorer districts, are learning in such an environment. When I say hard straight lines, it's because the desks are specifically in rows. Students don't have the opportunity to talk to one another. They are facing up front to the instructor, who is simply delivering information to them. The second scenario is what we would like to get to in education and what research supports for what we should be offering our students. So let's talk a little bit about how we got here. In the 19th century, the prominent form of school occurred in a one-room schoolhouse. We had a number of students working together at different levels. The teacher had to deliver information to pretty much differentiate. But it was such a wide spectrum of students, and there was so much diversity, it was difficult to be really, truly effective. Around the turn of the century, with compulsory attendance laws coming into effect late in the 19th century, there was an increase in immigration. The second industrial revolution was taking place, and metropolitan areas were growing quickly. And that all occurred at the beginning of the 20th century. The one-room schoolhouse would no longer sustain the way we had delivered education. In fact, around that time, one of the prominent things in industry that really drove the United States is the assembly line, introduced by Henry Ford in 1913. And on that assembly line, he ended up creating an opportunity for somebody to specialize in one small area. I could perform this one small task to perfection, complete it quickly because I had such an expertise in it, and then it would move on down the line. Well, this was great. We were able to increase production in the United States, become one of the world leaders in production and manufacturing, and we ended up using that same philosophy and adopted it in our education. We started to move from one-room schoolhouses into schools where kids were in rooms grouped by ages, and we expected them all to be at the same level, and a lot of times we ended up offering them the same education. It was the exact same one-size-fits-all type of education. It worked for a while. But the problem is there's been quite a bit of change since then. And schools haven't done what they've needed to adapt to what research supports as far as what we need to allow for our students, what we need to give our 21st century learners. This is what has led to a lot of the leading research in education and biggest pushes lately. We have student growth, where we're supposed to measure growth of the individual student over time. We end up having blended learning, where we assess students at the beginning, and if they already know it, we find out ways to try to help them move past that and enrich. Or if they don't know, then we end up trying to differentiate and offer support to reteach. There are concepts with feedback to our students. We are trying to offer a classroom where teachers are differentiating as much as possible, but we don't necessarily have the tools that we're offering out there. In accordance to Monster.com, one of the largest global employment websites, the top 7 characteristics employers are looking for in their future employees are problem solving, data analytics, social media literacy, creativity, resiliency, good business sense, and a willingness to learn. On top of that, candidates need to be able to prove themselves, their worth from the get-go. So they need to be able to have the ability to adapt and be creative, be innovative, because that's what's going to help them to establish themselves as somebody who's employable. But what do our facilities do to support this? Well, a report released by the National Clearinghouse for Educational Facilities in 2002 explicitly explains how the many characteristics of a school building, from air quality, temperature, aesthetics, and many more, have an impact on student performance. That was back in 2002. However, an article written by Rachel Cohen in 2018 that was in the Washington Post said that the U.S. Government Accountability Office reported that as many as 28 million students attend schools with significant structural problems, including 15,000 entire schools with unsafe indoor quality. By 2013, the American Society of Civil Engineers gave public schools a D+ grade on its national report card. One 2016 report estimated it would cost roughly $145 billion annually to update, maintain, and modernize our school buildings so all students could learn in a safe environment that was conducive to what research provided. A lot of people think about that $145 billion, and you think, how can we possibly do that? What I want to ask you is, how can we possibly afford not to do that? We are talking about our future leaders, our future educators, those who are going to end up creating laws and trying to come up with ways to be able to make this world a better place. Yet we're providing them with an education in an environment that doesn't promote such things. So what is it that we need to do to update the classroom? What is it that we need to do to update school buildings? Well, rooms must have the ability to be able to move things around. Flexible layouts with multiple focal points. No longer should it be that the teacher is simply at the front of the room and students are sitting in rows focusing on that one teacher. We have collaborative learning going on, and it can go on in multiple places in the room. These students with multiple focal points have the ability to express their thoughts, take down things that they want to take away, add things to it, be able to communicate on something that's easy and visual for all of them to be able to see. So there needs to be multiple focal points within the room, and the ability to have small groups or transition to large groups, to have a large group discussion as to what the small groups came up with, so people can share their ideas collaboratively. There needs to be sufficient power sources and bandwidth to accommodate multiple different types of technology that are supporting learning. And not only does it need to support the technology we currently have, but technology is going to continue to develop. We need to be able to support, as technology develops, the opportunity to be able to accommodate that. So we need to be able to have sufficient bandwidth and connection points for the technology that we currently have and technology of the future. Students and educators need to be able to move about the room, and it needs to accommodate the variety of different activities teachers are using to be able to influence their students to be creative and innovative. They need to be able to move around furniture, and they need to be able to meet in small groups, in large groups, and individually if necessary. The room needs to serve multiple purposes, and on top of that, it needs to be a light-filled room. It needs to have natural light. It needs to have proper lighting, and that lighting also needs to be efficient. We need to be able to provide our students with an environment that has bright colors and is motivating to them. We need to provide an atmosphere that helps to foster innovation and creativity. And if we don't do that in education, it's going to cost us far more than $145 billion. So the question again goes to, what will it cost us? Well, there are a lot of options out there that are low cost. Teachers in classrooms, educators can go in and invest in bean bags, things as simple as bean bags and rugs that allow students the opportunity to be able to move around the room freely, create groups in different aspects of the room, being able to push furniture aside, sometimes meet in groups as necessary, but also, if necessary, to be able to have individual spots to be able to take maybe some specific assessments. We need to be able to provide a number of focal points where, if we have open surfaces, let's cover them with dry erase boards. Allow the students opportunities where they can express themselves and share ideas on an open canvas. And then, if necessary, they're able to share it with the entire class. We need to be able to have computer carts or an opportunity to be able to do one-to-one, so we can provide our students with the technology necessary to help to foster learning in the classroom. Those computer carts can be moved from one room to another. And with such flexibility in the room, rooms are something that can be shared when there's off periods or downtime. We can bring somebody else in and be able to use that room during that same time. We can make the most of the downtime within those rooms. This type of flexibility will help our learners and our educators to be able to provide the education that's necessary for students to become those innovators, to provide them with the opportunity where they want to be, where they want to learn, they want to be a part of it, and they can collaboratively work together using the technology available to them in today's world to help them to be that 21st century learner we want them to be. We all want the best for students. They are, again, our leaders of the future. They will be the ones who will one day be taking care of us as we age out. We want to be able to provide for them a solid future. With upgrades and renovations necessary to our schools anyway, why would we do anything less than provide our students with an environment that allows them the best education possible? I thank you very much and have a great day.